Hey guys, Sean here. Thank you for coming back to the channel. Hey, happy Euro Cup. I'm excited Euro Cup's kicking off this week, so I'm wearing my jersey. And this week I'm actually going to talk about a European stock, I guess. So, it fits pretty well. By the way, if you guys are new here, I talk about personal finance topics and investing. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, please consider hitting that subscribe button for more videos like this one. Now, I got to start off today by talking about a SPAC, which is, let's call this a bit of a spin-off video of a previous video I made about SPACs. I mentioned one called AJAX, which is actually one that I hold, and I currently still hold units for that SPAC. At the time I picked up the SPAC at $12.50. It is currently, well, it was down further than this, but it was down below the $10 mark. Now it's at $9.99. And the reason I did that was because at the time I was kind of thinking that this SPAC would be going out to try to do some sort of business combination with an EV stock, and at the time those types of SPACs were getting crazy numbers. Like, they were getting evaluations in the 20s and 30s, so I was expecting big things from the SPAC. Well, unfortunately, things did not pan out that way. Rumors started to swirl about AJAX doing some sort of business combination with a company called Cazoo. When those started happening, investors disagreed. The price started to come down. I held on, but that's okay, because after I did a little bit of research on Cazoo, I found it's actually, while it's not an EV stock, it's still kind of, car related, and I think would actually be a pretty cool disruptive type of business. But we're going to get into, what happened with AJAX. I'm going to talk about what Cazoo is, its its value proposition and what it does. We'll talk a little bit about its competitors and some of its finances. And of course, I'll summarize everything and some takeaways at the end and talk about whether it's a buy. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video to kind of get, my final thoughts on it. But without further ado, let's talk about AJAX and Cazoo, the business combination, and what the future holds for this stock. All right, so what happened with the AJAX price? So you can see from this chart, the price of AJAX SPAC peaked at about $13.50. So about $1 above what I picked it up at. It didn't really get close to my expectations. In fact, after I picked it up, it started to decline amongst, like I said, these rumors about a combination with a company that wasn't an EV company. On March 29th, it was officially announced that AJAX would merge with Cazoo. That perked the stock up a little bit there, but nowhere near what it had been in the past. But I guess you could say that overall this didn't pan out the way I wanted it to, but it's kind of a happy accident that it's merging with a company that I hadn't known about, but I still kind of like. This merger deal is worth about $7 billion, which gives Cazoo a total value of $8.1 billion altogether. The two businesses are already kind of filing the paperwork, trying to get this merger done. It'll be completed sometime in 2021, but I don't have an exact date of when this merger will be complete. At that point, you can expect the ticker symbol of AJAX to change to CZOO, which is essentially Cazoo. Cazoo plans to take this money and raise an additional $1.6 billion, after which, it will pay some of its longtime shareholders, but essentially use this money to continue its expansion across Europe. Right now, it's centered in the UK, and it recently expanded into France and Germany, but it wants to continue that expansion into the rest of Europe. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next couple sections here. So while not an EV company, Cazoo is still a disruptor in many ways. It's actually looking at the way that it can revolutionize the way Europeans buy used cars. The way it works is, one customer will want to sell a vehicle, right? So they will go to the website and sell their vehicle to Cazoo. It has to meet a bunch of requirements, and then Cazoo will pick up that car, give it a 300-point inspection, do any slight reconditioning that it might need, and then post it on its website. At that point, another customer will come along, try to purchase that car, and Cazoo will actually deliver the car to their doorstep. And of course, it comes along with some driver satisfaction guarantees and that kind of thing. Along the way, Cazoo also will sell you other products, like if you want to finance the vehicle, etc., insure it, all of that kind of stuff will come along with it. So that's a great one-stop shop for people who just want to simplify this whole experience. The idea is to simplify this thing and preventing you from wasting your time going around and shopping for all these cars and checking out a bunch of duds until you finally find something. Cazoo figures that this market is about $700 billion in Europe, and only 2% of transactions are done online. So there's a big TAM, a big opportunity here with not a lot of competition right now to kind of get in there. And there are two big things that that Cazoo is solving, at least for me. First is the experience of selling the car. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but trying to sell a car on Craigslist or Kijiji, whenever I've done it, I always get these like one offer emails of just like, I post a car for like 10 grand and then I'll get, will you take 5 grand? And people don't even want to come see the vehicle before they offer a price on it. It drives me up the wall and honestly totally ruins the experience for me. I would rather put my arm in a vise and bite down on a cockroach than try and sell a stupid car on Craigslist. And then of course, if you go to the dealership, they're only going to give you like 50 cents on the dollar of what you can get it used. So there's no good option here. The second thing Cazoo tries to improve on is the experience of buying a car, and the only thing worse than selling one is probably buying a car, going and dealing with dealerships, dealing with salespeople, again, going to a million different cars that aren't what they say in the ad, and you have to have all the expertise in order to ask the right questions, make sure you're not buying a lemon. So the fact that Cazoo will offer all the background checks on a car, a 300-point inspection, and a little bit of a driver satisfaction guarantee is actually quite appealing. Now there's a second kind of cooler way that Cazoo makes money, which sort of sets it apart from some of its competitors over in North America, and that is it has a subscription service, which I think is really what sets it apart. It's really what is going to get like younger people interested in this. And essentially, it'll take your car payments and any maintenance and all that stuff. It packages up into a monthly subscription. You sign a contract for like 2 years. They deliver you the car, and all you really do is pay that monthly fee and subscribe to your car until your contract is up. So just like having Netflix and food delivery services and all those other subscriptions, you just have one that's just for your car, and that's what it costs you every month, a nice predictable payment. Now, when I first heard of that option, I immediately thought it's similar to a lease, but maybe offering a little bit more than a lease does, which is nice, but I'm probably gonna be paying a lot more for that convenience. Now, while the exact amount of extra that costs you kind of varies from car to car, I could actually see consumers who were maybe shopping for a new vehicle now being able to look at a used vehicle as an option because it comes with some of the maintenance and things taken care of, like the perks of a new car, but they can save money getting a used car. So I actually could see people paying a little bit extra for that convenience charge, and this still being a viable, value proposition for a lot of people. I think it's going to be hugely popular with the 20-somethings coming into owning a car. They're used to subscription services. They're maybe not necessarily super interested in learning about how to maintain a car and do that sort of thing. So paying a subscription fee to get all that stuff taken care of and all they have to worry about is gas would be really appealing. It is starting to get dark out. All right, let's talk about the competition for Cazoo, because that's a big thing. You want to see, what could happen that might affect this stock that is still in its infancy and trying to grow. Well, let's talk about Carvana and Vroom. Those are two very similar services when it comes to buying and selling used vehicles, but they exist in North America, and they don't really have a foothold in Europe, which is kind of what makes Carvana unique. The other competition you'd have is used car dealerships, but I already kind of covered that. The experience just isn't there. They're not simple, and you have to travel around to all of those. Even though they have the inventory, you still would have to travel to a few locations to find what you want. So that leaves other types of websites like AutoTrader that are usually typically dominated by dealerships and then mixed in with some private sales in there, but they don't offer the services. They don't offer to pick up and deliver the car for you. They might give you some good data on whether the price of a car is reasonable or not, but again, it doesn't simplify the experience for you. You still have to go out there and get it. So I think the biggest threat would be if one of the North American companies would come over to Europe, and which is probably why Cazoo is trying to expand so quickly, just to make sure that they've kind of got their territory covered should the others look overseas to sort of start to expand. But as of right now, I don't see an immediate threat for Cazoo, which is why I'm kind of attracted and wanting to hold on to my shares for this one. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the finances. Let's get down to business here. So is it profitable? No, it's not. While the revenues are increasing, and we will get to that in the highlights in a sec here, the company is very much in growth mode right now. Any money it raises is going to expansion, and rightfully so, because it does want to get, like I said, its footprint expanded really quickly in case other competition arrives. Here is the forecasted table here. So you can see the revenue is forecasted to increase from now to 2024. Gross profit also to get out of the negatives. It's in the positives for 2021, and that's an encouraging sign. But you can see here, operating profit, which is a big stat for this company, isn't set to get to be positive until 2024. So that is the kind of the road to profitability, I guess you could say. Again, EBITDA and free cash flow all increasing according to these goals. Now, these are just forecasts, right, from the company, so you take it with a grain of salt. It's worth noting that the number of cars sold on the website is increasing. It's on track to reach its goal of $1 billion in revenue this year, so that is a positive sign. And as long as it delivers on these goals that it has, I think that it will actually do quite well. But now some of the highlights from its investor meeting, I'll put those up too right now, is you're seeing an increase in vehicles sold, an increase of 370%. Revenue is up 481%. Gross profit is up from being in the negatives and now is positive. And the gross margin is also increasing, which means that while the revenues are going up, its earnings are also going up. It's managing its profit margin there as it starts to kind of get one. So that on top of meeting its goals is kind of showing that this company knows what it's doing, is being managed well. I think these are all good signs. Might still be a little bit early to get in on it, but let's get to the takeaways and we'll see what I say about that. So here are the takeaways about Cazoo and whether I think it's a buy. Now, what we would normally use to evaluate growth companies is a little bit tough to get here. Even the fundamental of price to sales, I can't really do that right now because Cazoo doesn't have a stock for me to evaluate. I only have the SPAC numbers. The only thing is that I don't have a lot of history here to look at things like historical earnings or trends in profit margins and that kind of thing. Like, we can see those are moving in the right direction, but we don't have a lot of history on this company. So I would call this still a very speculative play, but I do like it right now because look at the competition if you're wanting to get into the sector. You have Vroom, which is sitting at about $43 US right now per share, or you have Carvana, which is $266 USD. So at $10 to get in on this with Ajax is actually, not a bad option. Now, for reasons I've already stated, I think this space is ripe for being disruptive. It's not a great experience. It's easy for someone to come in and with the right creativity and mindset, make this a simpler experience that would appeal to a lot of people. Like I said, me personally, I would rather do my own dental work than deal with buying and selling used cars. And with the population density of Europe and only 2% of transactions being done online, I really think that this company could penetrate into that market and really, start to do something good. The other thing is having that subscription model is really cool because it gives Cazoo another avenue to use its assets, to use its cars. Should it not be able to sell it, it can actually, rent it out to folks as a subscription and make money off them that way. So I really like that feature of Cazoo. So that is why I'm holding onto the shares. Like I said, right now they're $9.99 as of the recording of this video. I don't have a huge position, but I'm gonna hold on to it, watch this stock, and I wanna see how it does in the next few quarters as it does this expansion, and we'll see if I start to build that position up. But I do expect this to be an exciting one to watch, even though it's not a EV stock. That's all I have, friends. Hopefully this explains a little bit about Cazoo. You've learned something. If you have, please remember to hit that like button before you go. And you guys have yourself a great week. Spread the wealth. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.